Hello, everyone. I'm going to, in this session, discuss the remaining part of chapter number 3. So, in the first part, I talked about the simultaneous shift in demand and supply curves, and then I talked about price ceilings and price floors. Now we'll talk about quota. Instead of fixing price level as a price ceiling or a price floor, government might also restrict output as well. If you see the diagram on your screen, you will see the basic difference between quota and price floor. In price floor, government fixes the price level above the equilibrium price in order to support farmers in one example or workers in another example. In this diagram, when government restricts the production of that certain product or restricting the output, it will increase price level but without causing a surplus. We know that in price floor we have surplus. We have a surplus. I can go back here and you can see this is a diagram for price floor, and you can see that price floor creates a surplus of 20,000 workers. And by surplus in the labor market, I mean unemployment. So 20,000 workers will be unemployed because of this minimum wages. In quota, there is no such surplus. So there's no surplus. And we can explain this in this diagram. So quota is the restriction on the level of production, not on the price level. Okay, so let's see this. So if you look at this, this is the quota. This production level is quota. That is, the suppliers are not allowed to produce more than 4 I would say units or whatever million kilos of that particular commodity or product. So the total level of production would be 4 units. At this 4 unit, if you see, although the line, this vertical line says quota, but this is actually the new supply curve. That is, suppliers cannot produce more than 4 units. So you have a vertical line basically. And this line intersects the demand curve at this point. So you can see that this is the price 6, which is higher than the equilibrium price of 4. There is no surplus in this diagram. How do I know? Or how do we know that there's no surplus? Because see, this supply curve, let me show you, this supply curve doesn't hold now. We have this vertical line that is a supply curve. So supply equals demand. At $6 price, quantity demanded is 4 units and supply is also 4 units. So the market clears. There's no surplus. So this is the basic difference between price floor and quota, that quota actually does not cause a surplus. So that is another type of government intervention. Now we have taxes and of course subsidies as well. So we will see using the diagram, simple diagram that we have been actually discussing in chapter number 2 and 3 about demand and supply curve. So these are the definitions. I'm just reading this out. and you have to read from your textbook as well. A sales tax imposed on a particular products such as alcohol, gasoline, and cigarettes. So basically, excise tax is a form of a sales tax, you know, that is imposed on a particular product. Carbon tax also falls in this category. An excise tax, whether imposed, remember this, on the buyer or the seller, will decrease the equilibrium quantity of the product. So it doesn't matter whom this tax is imposed, the impact will be the same. Okay, and I'll show you. So if a tax is imposed on consumers or if a tax is imposed on sellers, the impact will be the same. Yes, the the consumers and producers, they share the burden equally or unequally depending on the elasticity of the demand and supply curves, which is basically the topic of chapter number 4. So I'll discuss elasticity in chapter 4. Here I'm going to show you that if a tax is imposed on consumers or on sellers or buyer or sellers or sellers or producers, basically the impact will be the same. Let's see this. So this is an example of an excise tax on energy drinks. So suppose if government wants to reduce the level of production of this product, so government will impose an excise tax on this product. Now, if you look at this diagram carefully, you notice that I shifted the supply curve to the left in this direction. So let's see this. Hold on a second. This direction. See? So this is a leftward shift in the supply curve. Or you could have said it's an upward shift. Same thing, right? So basically the supply curve will shift upward or to the left. Same thing. What does this mean? This means that when an excise tax is imposed on sellers, suppliers will have to charge higher prices. Why? Because, for example, let me just show you in the same diagram here. Suppose that supplier, see this. Suppose at 8 unit, the supplier are willing to accept this price. That is, at this price, they are willing to sell 8 units. Now, when these suppliers have to pay taxes, they will increase their price for the same unit, that is 8. So for 8 units, now they charge slightly higher price. So at each unit, now suppliers are charging higher prices because of the taxes, and therefore the whole supply curve will shift upward. Let's see what would happen to equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. We have already done this in chapter number 2, that when supply curve shifts to the left, I know that equilibrium price will increase, equilibrium quantity will decrease. And I can show you here. We're using different colors so that you know what I'm doing. So first, I will use green color. So I'll use green color to show you the initial equilibrium point. That is without taxes. So initial equilibrium point was this, if you remember. This. So this is the equilibrium point. At equilibrium, where demand intersects supply curve, you can see this is 5 million cases of beer, but that's fine. I would just say units. So 5 units. And what is the equilibrium price? Equilibrium price is $8. This is the initial equilibrium. Now a tax is imposed. And what is the amount of that tax? $2. So a $2 per case excise tax is imposed on these sellers. What would happen? The supply curve will shift upward by the same amount, that is $2. So suppliers are not going to do anything. They just add $2 to their price level. Simple. So I shifted the supply curve upward by the amount of $2. And you can see the difference between these two curves must be $2, which is shown here. So the curve shifts upward by exactly $2. Now see what would happen. If this is the case, then there's slight, I think this diagram is confusing, but I'm just drawing the diagram for you, so don't worry. Let me use the orange color. Okay. So now I'm using orange color to show you what would happen if supply curve if I shifted supply curve to upward or rightward or leftward, sorry, upward or leftward. Now see, the new equilibrium point would be this much. Let me circle this so that you know. See, this point is the new equilibrium point. How do I know? Because this is the intersection of new supply curve, that is with taxes, and the same demand curve, because there's no shift in the demand curve. So the orange circle shows new equilibrium point. Now see what is happening. Actually, equilibrium quantity decreases from 4 or 5 units to 4 units. You can see this is now new equilibrium. So equilibrium quantity decreases. Now the question is about equilibrium price. Equilibrium price is now, if you see here, this is the new equilibrium point, which is $9. Equilibrium price is $9. Okay. Now examine this side. So I'm first talking about buyers side. From the buyer side, let me write here so that you know. Buyers. Initially, buyers were paying $8, the initial original equilibrium price. They were paying $8. Sellers were receiving $8. Everything was cleared, right? So there were no shortages, no surpluses. But after the imposition of an excise tax of $2 per unit, notice that now equilibrium price is $9. Equilibrium price $9 means that consumers are now paying $9. So now consumers are paying $9. So technically, after taxes, consumers are paying $1 extra. So consumers now are paying $1 extra. Before the tax, they were paying $8. Now they are paying $9. Remember, the equilibrium price is the price that consumers are paying. What about producers? So initially, before the tax, let me write here so that you know what I'm doing. Producers. Before the tax, producers were receiving $8. Simple. Same. So you were paying $8 before the taxes, and sellers were receiving $8. Market clears. Now with the taxes, there's a problem. The problem is that yes, buyers or consumers are now paying $9 instead of $8, because you can see new equilibrium price is $9. So now they are paying $9, $1 extra. Producers are receiving this $9, definitely. Okay. But the tax is imposed on producers or sellers. So although producers receive this $9, they have to pay $2 to the government from this $9. So technically, the suppliers or producers are now receiving only $7. That is $9 minus $2 taxes, because producers are paying taxes to the government. Consumers are not paying. Consumers are simply paying $9 to the sellers. Sellers receive this $9, and from $9 pay $2 to the government and keep $7. So sellers now are losing $1. Okay, so $1 less. Before trade taxes, producers were earning $8. Now they are earning only $7. So notice the total amount of $2 excise tax, $1 is contributed by consumers and the other dollar is contributed by sellers. Although tax is imposed on sellers. So tax is imposed on sellers, but both buyers and sellers are bearing the burden equally, $1 each. Okay. So if you want me to show you what is the price where you can show this $7 price. So see, this is the equilibrium orange circle. This is the equilibrium. And if you go down to this orange circle to the original supply curve, this is the original supply curve. So this supply curve gives you the price, and this price must be 7 because I know that the gap between these two supply curve is always $2. So the gap, if this is 9, then this must be 7 because 9 minus 7 is 2. So in this case, a tax or an excise tax of $2 is shared equally. Both are sharing $1 each, although the tax is imposed on producers or sellers. Hold on. I have a blank sheet here. So now here I'm going to show you what would happen if I, or if government basically imposes excise tax on consumers rather than on producers. So see this. I'll really quickly draw this diagram. So suppose this is the demand curve. This is supply curve. Equilibrium price is, let's say, 9 units. This is product X. This is price of product X. And then now the tax is imposed on consumers, not sellers. So consumer will do what? For example, a government imposes a tax on me, it means that I will have to decrease my demand because now the price has gone up. For example, if I am willing to pay $7 on any product, and if a tax is $2 per unit, now I will have to pay $9 instead of $7 technically because I have to pay taxes to the government as well. So the imposition of tax, an excise tax basically, will shift the demand curve leftward. Why leftward? Why consumers are demanding more? Because they have to pay taxes as well, and therefore the price of the product has gone up, and that is why they are actually demanding less, and the whole demand curve shifts leftward or downward as well. Why downward? Because they have to consider taxes as well. Okay. So for example, let me take one number so that you know. Okay, let me write here this. Let's say this price is $8. Okay, $8. So initially the equilibrium price was $8 before taxes. Now when taxes are imposed on buyers, the demand curve shifts leftward or downward, right? So the gap between these two demand curve, let me show you if I can, from here to here, this gap must be $2. Must be $2. Okay. So basically what is happening here, that whatever now you buy, you have to add $2 to your price. For example, if you have to pay $6, technically you are paying $9. Yeah, $8. Sorry, if you are paying $6, then technically you are paying $8. 6 plus $2 taxes as well. So you have to pay taxes to the government as well. Now see what is happening here. So if I shift the only thing that you have to remember is that when a tax is imposed on supplier, supply curve shifts leftward or upward. When a tax is imposed on buyers, demand curve shifts leftward or downward, less demand. Because if a heavy tax is imposed on me, of course I'm going to demand less because the price including taxes will be higher, and therefore my I will demand less. But this decrease in demand is not because of this price of X. Remember, otherwise I would have been moving on the same demand curve. I would be moving on the same demand curve. This is because of the taxes. That is why I shifted the demand curve to the left. Now let's take the new equilibrium price. And new equilibrium price, I will use a different color. So see, this is the new equilibrium price. Okay. Now I'm not concerned with the quantities. Okay, let me write quantities as well. So this is suppose 8. So equilibrium quantity decreases. Now see what is happening. Suppose this is $7. Okay. So this is $7. This is the equilibrium price. What is the meaning of equilibrium price? Equilibrium price means consumers are paying this $7 and suppliers are also receiving this $7. So I'm writing here. Initially, they both were receiving, both means consumers were paying $8 when sellers were receiving or are receiving $8. Same. Now, producers are receiving this $7. So now they are losing $1. Okay, so I'm writing here, producers are now receiving $1 less, negative $1. They were earlier receiving $8, now they are receiving $7. But note $1 less, negative $1. They were earlier receiving $8, now they are receiving $7. But notice, and you know why I wrote just $7? Because now producers are not paying taxes, so they don't have to worry about it. They are just receiving $7. Finish. Now consumers are not paying this $7, although this is equilibrium, new equilibrium. Consumers are paying this $7. So I'm writing here, consumers or buyers, same thing. Consumers are paying this $7 and plus $2 for taxes as well, because tax is imposed on buyers, sellers. So that would be $9. So consumers are actually paying $9, not $7. How do I show this $9? So see, on the 8 units, I go up to this actual demand curve and come here, this point. So this is $9. How do I know that this is $9? Because 7 and the gap between the two demand curve must be equal to the size of the tax, that is $2 per unit. So again, the analysis is exactly the same. Producers are contributing $1 to this $2 taxes, and consumers or buyers are also contributing $1. Why $1? Because now they are paying $9. Earlier they were paying $8, so they are paying $1 extra. So both suppliers and buyers, or buyers and sellers, they both are paying $1 to this excise tax. So both are sharing the tax burden equally. So it doesn't matter, because you must have heard from your friends, family members, that government should impose taxes on those producers who are polluting. We are not polluting, and therefore why we should pay taxes. Even if government imposes taxes on producers, those taxes will be shifted on consumers anyways. Who bears the most burden will depend on your responsiveness to changes in prices. That is called elasticity, which will be the topic of chapter number 4. The opposite analysis is subsidies. So subsidies are exactly opposite of taxes, which is given here, used by the government to promote economic and social policy, usually given per unit produce. So for example, if government wants high schools to enroll more students, so government will give money to those producers who are providing education, given in the form of direct cash grant, rent rebate, interest-free loans, etc. These are different forms of subsidies. A subsidy, whether given to a buyer or the seller, will increase the equilibrium quantity of the product. Again, it doesn't matter who is receiving the subsidy. So whether provincial government or local government will give subsidy to Red Deer Polytechnic, to the administration, or to the students in the form of scholarship, will have the same impact, right? So it doesn't matter who is getting this subsidy. The impact will be shared between sellers and buyers. What is the distribution of that benefits? Of course, will depend on elasticity. This is the diagram which I'm just okay. Let me discuss this diagram. This is the subsidy to egg producers. So this is a subsidy to producers, not consumers. You have to draw a diagram. Of course, in your midterm exam, I'm not going to ask you to draw diagram, but you should know the impact of this subsidy on equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. So let me just explain this, and that is the last, I believe, topic. See this, what is happening. Subsidy, I told you, is exactly opposite. Remember, in the case of an excise tax, I shifted the supply curve upward. Now exactly opposite. Now I shift the supply curve downward in this direction. See, in this direction. So supply curve shifts downward. First, look at the initial equilibrium, right, before subsidy. So the initial equilibrium was this point. This is the initial equilibrium. I'm not talking about equilibrium quantity. I'm just talking about prices. So equilibrium price was 2. What does this mean? It means the egg producers were receiving $2 and consumer were paying $2. No subsidy. Now when government gives subsidy, what is the amount of $1? So the subsidy is written here. A $1 per case subsidy shifts the supply curve rightward or downward, same thing. Okay. So instead of $2 taxes, now I'm taking a $1 subsidy. Okay. You could have taken $2 subsidy, no issue, but you have to change the numbers accordingly. So equilibrium price, initial equilibrium price was $2 price. So consumer were paying $2, producers were receiving $2. Now with the subsidy, if you see, the new equilibrium is here. That is, this 1.5 is the new equilibrium point. You must understand this. Since this subsidy of $1 is given to producers, so consumers are not receiving any money, any subsidy. So now consumers are paying this new equilibrium price. They are now paying $1.5 instead of 2. So they are also getting benefit from the subsidy given to producers. They are getting 50 cents benefit. Now they are paying only $1.5 instead of 2. Now, what about producers? Producers are receiving this $1.5 from the consumers and $1 from the government in the form of a subsidy. So producers will receive this $1.5 and see, go to the supply curve here, and I know that this distance is $1. So 1.5 plus 1, 2.5. So producers are getting actually $2.5. So earlier, before subsidy, producers were receiving $2. Now they are getting $2.5. So 50 cents. So consumers are paying 50 cents less. So they are getting benefited for this 50 cents. Producers are now receiving 50 cents more. Instead of 2, now they are receiving 2.5. So both producers and consumers, both buyers and sellers, are sharing this benefit of $1 from the government. Although to the producer, consumers or buyers are also getting are benefited from this subsidy. You could have drawn diagram for if the subsidy is given to buyers. So I'm not going to analyze completely, but I'll just show you. This is demand, this is supply, this is equilibrium quantity, this is equilibrium price. But when a subsidy is given to consumers, the demand curve will shift to the right instead of left. Remember, In the tax, I shifted leftward, now shifts rightward. So this is the equilibrium price, new equilibrium price. So this is the price that producers will receive. Consumers will receive the price plus subsidy as well, because now consumers are getting a subsidy. I don't know what is the amount, right? So that's the reason I did not write any number here. But you could have easily analyzed this. If you want, I can show you here. That is much easier. Let's take 5 more minutes. So now for the time being, just assume that this is not a supply curve anymore. This curve doesn't exist, right? I can't delete. I don't know how to delete. I can't delete. So this is supply curve. This is demand curve. Now this time demand curve shifts to the right because government is giving subsidy to these buyers instead of seller. So I shifted the demand curve like this. So this demand curve shifts to the right. See what is happening. Now the price is 2.5. Equilibrium price is 2.5. So sellers, that is producers, are now receiving $2.5, $0.5 more. See, from 2 to 2.5. So they are receiving $2.5. Sellers are receiving $2.5, $0.5 extra because of the subsidy given to consumers, but they are receiving extra 50 cents. What about consumers? Consumers are paying this $2.5 actually, but they are not actually paying $2.5 because they are receiving $1 from the government as well. So technically, they are paying from their own pocket $1.5. That is, I come down to the original demand curve here and go here. See, so they are paying $1.5 because if I'm receiving this subsidy, I will pay $1.5 and I receive $1 from the government as a subsidy, $2.5, and I'll pay this $2.5 to these producers. So technically, I'm paying $1.5. That is $0.5 less from the initial equilibrium, $2. So in both cases, producers or sellers and buyers are sharing the benefits of this subsidy equally. So I think that's all as far as, let me just double check. Yeah, so this is all as far as chapter number 3 is concerned. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.